Hi, it's Johanna and welcome to my channel. Today I want to do another video. It's like a follow-up about a year and a half, maybe 2 years later. I can't remember how long it's been since my first video on one of my very first fragrances. It's Electric Youth by Debbie Gibson. And this was like marketed by Revlon. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Revlon, New York. So I had done a previous video when I first got this off of eBay. This is a very old, this is like one of the original ones. I think there might have been a re-release in the 2000s, but this one, I believe, is from the late 1980s when it was first released. So when I got this before and my previous video on this, it really disappointed me. Really disappointed me because it barely smelled like what I remembered, and there was a whole lot of other stuff that I was smelling that I don't think I smelled at all with the original one that I had. So I was pretty disappointed, and I have been kind of pretty disappointed whenever I tried to either wear this or smell this, spray this ever since. However, I was near my perfume shelves and I was pulling out all of the, like the first 4 or 5 fragrances of my lifetime, which would have taken me through middle school. And I picked up the bottle and I smelled it, like from the outside. I got a whiff of it and it smelled really sweet and like fruity, syrupy sweet. And I thought, I don't remember this smelling that way before when I first bought this particular bottle. However, it was reminding me a lot of how it smelled way back in the day. So I looked up the notes, and well, the main accords first are sweet, fruity, amber, floral, and then woody. So the fragrance notes are on Fragrantica. Fruity notes, sweet notes, and they have pictures of like fruits, and then jelly candies, multicolored. And then amber, then floral notes, and woodsy notes. So it's very non-specific. When fragrances on Fragrantica are like have their notes very non-specific like that, it reminds me of like Middle Eastern fragrances and how a lot of times people think of that as meaning that it's like not a high quality aroma chemical that's being used in the fragrance. But there's also potentially cultural reasons why they might not be specific about the fruits that they might be using as far as the fruity notes. So there's cultural reasons that could also be the reason. So when I see it here with this fragrance, I think, well, it's an old fragrance. So maybe they don't have the information on the specific notes. So I was just wondering, is it true that when the notes are described this way in these fragrances and Middle Eastern fragrances, does it ever mean that it's a result of like using low quality aroma chemicals, low quality and synthetic, or is it more a matter of a lack of more specific information being given or obtained? So anyway, let me know what you think. I think there are a lot of attitudes out there, and like also like sort of like, yeah, attitudes about like Middle Eastern fragrances being X, you know, or what that is. And I don't know whether or not the Middle Eastern companies are aware of these like attitudes, or whether they care, or whether they even could like stand up for themselves. And I don't know whether they should. I don't know. All I know is that the attitudes I've seen on like, you know, social media often is from, you know, the people that think niche is always better, and that includes Parfums de Marly is considered, and even though that's owned by a really huge company, conglomerate, and has a lot of resources for like marketing themselves. So there's this attitude that then is like niche is awesome and amazing and definitely worth spending all that money on, but like designer or stuff you might find in the drugstore, that's like more accessible to people. That stuff is actually low quality, more synthetic, like not like, you know, authentic or real in some way, or even like you're being ripped off. Even the money you spend, even if it's like cheaper, you're still being ripped off. So I don't know what's the truth. All I know is like I'm noticing the like messages that I've gotten and like how I've been influenced by those attitudes and like how I've kind of like fallen in line with a lot of those too myself. And then I see this fragrance that I don't believe is a Middle Eastern, but you know, Revlon, it's drugstore, or I think it was, yeah, we bought this in the drugstore at the time. And like is it lower quality just because they're selling high volume, making it accessible to more people and charging less money? Like, who's to say that Calvin Klein that charged like 40 or 60 bucks a bottle in the 90s, like who's to say that they actually were using more expensive like materials? Like, why would they? Like, why would they? Why wouldn't they just focus on marketing to try and get us to believe that? Because we're really able to be influenced by things like vanity and stuff and social status. Now, when I'm smelling it, it's way more balanced. I think what I was smelling back when I first did the video is like the amber and woodsy notes, which I don't know whether there's aldehydes too, but I was complaining about it. So I was smelling the aldehydes aged in the bottle all these years, but since I've sprayed it, you know, probably up to 10 times since then, I feel like the fragrance has come back to like the original that I remembered it. Like maybe it's probably come back like between 60 and 70% to, yeah, so it's improved since, yeah. I spent more than $100 on this. This was the most expensive one of my first 4 or 5 fragrances of my lifetime that I repurchased on eBay. This is the most expensive one, and it also was the biggest disappointment in how much it had like deteriorated. Well, I think if you by chance get a chance to get a hold of this and you really want it, and you do, then don't be too disappointed. Now the color is probably a little bit more brown than it originally was because the box that it was in is clear, so it probably doesn't have much UV protection. And yeah, this lid is for sure cheaply produced. It almost looks like they don't mind, like they didn't care. It was almost like, it reminds me of like resembling like what would be used to put together a cassette that you were buying or something. So since noticing that this was very sweet, syrupy, and fruity, and I was thinking like one of the sort of like strawberry cherry type mixture, but specifically, but that explains why I liked it so much back in the day. I couldn't remember. Now I remember. I must have liked it so much back in the day because it was so sweet, fruity, and syrupy. Because I was really young. I was really young when I had this at maybe like 4th, 5th grade.